Okay, we're streaming on YouTube and now hitting record on that 20 seconds of room tone.
All right. Hey, guys. We are doing the RCR podcast live today. I'm Nick.
I'm Brian.
And yeah, we're testing out the new webcam, trying to get a better setup going on here in terms of audio-visual sort of consistency. So, yeah, I guess this is happening.
This is RCR podcast 14. Remember the Millvale Neon? Let's get right to it. I had the worst day of filming on this past Saturday. I blew almost my entire film shoot. But from that, I got this mantra now called remember the Millvale Neon. And oh man, everybody in the comments are saying that the audio is bad, so much distortion, audio has been cranked to 11. All right, it's coming out of the phones. Guys are peaking like crazy. Way down, a little bit up. All right. I saw the thing. It looked like it was too much. So, anyway. I know the Zoom H4 is going to be fine. If I do this, does this... Yeah, that does it as well. So down and then down. All right. People are saying perfect. Now it sounds good. Way better. Awesome.
All right, cool. Great. So remember the Millvale
Neon. The Millvale Neon. The Millvale Neon was a film shoot that I've been waiting to do since beginning RCR. A first generation Dodge Neon in manual. And it had 45,000 miles on it.
Oh, wow.
From it was either 94 or 95. I think it was a 95. It had a combination CD and tape deck. It had power mirrors, but no power windows. Ooh. Those were crank. It was purple. The guys, the man and wife who owned it, or man and girlfriend, were from Ohio. They drove it to Pittsburgh, and I drove out to Pittsburgh to film this. So... it was going to end. Saturday in Pittsburgh was beautiful. It was snowing on the east side of PA, but Pittsburgh was amazing.
Yeah.
It was a cloudless day. It was beautiful. And this was me filming, this is my DSLR and I'm taking a picture. Taking a picture. Oh, hold on. And I couldn't even look at the screen on the video on my DSLR. That was making me nauseous. Damn. So Tim Strickler was there. Justin Lose was there. You remember Justin Lose? He had the 1925 Model T. He was there. Yeah, he was there. Turns out Justin Lose lives one block from Tim Strickler's house.
Small world. Yeah.
So we were all hanging out. I was throwing up. See, what happened is, Tim and I go out the night before. We go to room B or something, someplace in Millvale. I had 2 beers and I had a salad and shrimp. And I drank this. This is the classic bro story. I drank the same amount of alcohol that Tim did.
Yeah. Like
we had 2 beers. Then we went to another bar, had another beer, and then we went back to his house. And this is where the alcohol. Tim, since we last met him, has amassed a ludicrous supply of booze. And it's like any apartment or house that's just all guys in it. It's just lined up in the kitchen. There must have been 30 bottles there. I was just like, you get stuff for a party, or you like, I bought a whole bottle just to make one drink, or I was going to make this drink. And now, and me, I see that and I'm like, well, let's get into this. And he had this one bottle. It was like, oh, this is Japanese whiskey, and it said Suntory on it. And
oh, yeah, for relaxing times. Make
Suntory times. So I drank 3 of those, and I was rocking and rolling. And then, no, I drank 2, and then Justin Lose came over. So I'm like, fuck it, it's 1 a.m. Let's keep, I add another whiskey. So the drink count was 3 beers, 3 whiskeys over the course of, I don't know, 4 hours?
I could see it.
But I woke up, I went to bed at 1:30, and I woke up at 6 a.m. We were talking before a podcast, and bolt upright, like I am awake. And I've learned, okay, what's happening is your liver has processed all that booze, but in processing booze, and this is coming from my friend Tom, who's a professor at Iowa State of chemical engineering, Dr. Tom Mansell. And he said, okay, well, what's going on here is when your body's processing a lot of alcohol, your liver needs an extra kick, and your body supplies a bit of adrenaline to keep you going. And that's partially where the drunk muscles come from. So your liver is finally finished processing everything, and then the adrenaline's still going.
Yeah.
So that wakes you up, and you are rocking and ready to go. The first 2 times that's happened, in your early 20s, and whatever. Like, I remember doing that, going out for a wild night. You wake up at 7 a.m. It's like, just go to the dining hall.
Yeah.
Like, and of course, you're 21, and your liver is a 2-stroke engine that just takes in whatever it can, spits it right back out again. Like, ooh, I have a headache. By noon, you're ready to go again.
Yeah.
I miss that so much.
No, so do I. I miss, heading down Borough Street and then eventually grabbing like the Blue Loop, going to Sharky's, having like 8 Lions heads, and then hitting up College Pizza after.
Nick went to Penn State, Maine.
Yeah.
State college.
Yeah.
So that's what he's talking about.
And that was like party central. Well, I mean, that was the year where we were like technically the #1 party school in America. Yeah. And so I went to so many freaking parties with people I didn't even know. Run into people on the street, like, dude, get there. And I'm like, I'm just like, oh, no, look at me. I'm like, going all John Goodman on everything. I'm just completely having at it. And then, you're making out with people you don't even know. Like, it's just, college is awesome. Like, and then, 10 years later, you're suddenly kind of, you can't. I had a night like this last Tuesday where I did an open mic, and I had 2 beers there, and it's like, my brain is telling me, like, Nick, you're fine, go home. Like, go home, Nick, you're fine. Mm-hmm. And I end up going to Brewers to meet a friend, this bar called Brew. And anyway, I end up, like, having, a couple more, like, maybe, like, 2 or 3 more. Mm-hmm. But even that, it's kind of, you're starting to feel faded. And it's a Tuesday night, and you're kind of like, come on, why are you doing this? Yeah. You're 32. Go home. And I didn't get home until close to 3 a.m. I'm like, why? But
tomorrow's, you start thinking about that. You start counting the hours.
Like, 4, if I go to bed now, but then, like, I have to drop dead asleep now to get it. And so I sleep with, 4 bottles of water next to the bed and kind of, sort of rebalance things so that I wake up and I don't really have a hangover, like, or at least not as much of one.
Yeah.
Like, it's just kind of a slight thing. But then every time I wake up, I'm thinking, like, what? Never again.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just done. I'm done. And I don't know how people who never got out of that college mindset are still able to do it.
I know this one guy, he knows who he is, and he's a great friend I've met through RCR and also through we have like mutual friends. Yeah. But he said, I forget where he went to school, but he said, "Oh yeah, I got through it. I was able to keep that stuff going just by doing coke."
Ooh.
Like, I get done drinking and I do coke. I'm like, what? And he's like, he was like straight up about that he did that. I'm like, wow. People in the chat are complaining that it's 480p. That it's not high def. The reason it's 480p is so the stream doesn't drop, because it's streaming through this laptop, which is on the back of this chair. If it can take 720, then yeah, but I don't want the stream to go down.
Yeah, and we're going to end up cleaning up this audio later for posting on like the iTunes and the Google Play and Stitcher.
Yeah,
and
there's
other
two
places.
sources. You're hearing the board, but my Zoom H4 is also plugged into the board, which is going to be a different sounding audio, which I'm going to try to clean up after this. It's weird that I can see the chat going down.
Yeah.
I'm going to grab my coffee in a minute. Anyway, so I wake up the next day and I'm familiar with the hangover. Like, okay, you're queasy. You got a headache. Go into the bathroom. Stick your finger down your throat. Preemptively puke. Let's just get this over with. I did it. It all comes out. We've been down this road before and immediately feel like $1 million. After you throw up, like, okay, good. We're through this. Go drink water. Go back to bed. And wake up again. Oh, boy. All right. We're going to a second round of this. Go back to bed. Now it's 9 o'clock in the morning. And I'm still nauseous. And I'm like, uh-oh. I'm like, this is freaking weird. Justin Lose, I'm at Tim Strickler's house on that couch that I always sleep on. Yeah. And your futon is like in the other room. And I'm like, there is no way Tim upstairs isn't hearing me puking like this. So I go, I'm starting to do that thing where you start to sweat and then you're cold at the same time. So you got the blankets half on and half off. And now it's 10 o'clock and I'm just sitting, I'm in pain. It's like moving hurts, thinking hurts.
Yeah.
I'm just in the fetal position on the couch. Justin Lose comes over. Now, at that time, I'm picking up. We were supposed to film a second car, a Chevy SS, that also I'm waiting to, I'm excited about. But I'm like, this guy lived in Pittsburgh. I'm like, look, there's no way I'm going to be able to do two cars like this. I'm sorry, man. Can you just go home? And we'll do it a second time. I'm so sorry. Because both of these people emailed me the night before, said, are we still on? I'm like, fuck yeah, we're on. And then the next day, it's like, oh. So there was no SS. And then I started thinking, I don't know if I can do this Neon. Gotta do this Neon. I don't know if I can do it. Gotta do it. So I take pain pills. Justin Lose gives me this probiotic stuff to drink. Tim Strickler goes to the local drugstore, gets me Pepto-Bismol and Pedialyte.
Yeah, Pedialyte.
Yep. So I start nursing this stuff. I drink the Pepto-Bismol. I know I can't drive. Like, driving hurts, thinking hurts, looking hurts. Justin Lose also gave me a pill for something. I forget what it was. Just fuck it. Things. And
Bless you. Times two.
And we drive down to the park where we're going to film. And is this thing too far down again? Is this thing falling on me? Oh, touching the mic stand. Oh, watching the thing peak. There we go. So, crank this thing good and down. So we get down to the park, and I stagger around to the back of the car, the Subaru, open the Pelican case, get out the D750. Like, in my head, we've done enough of these. I can do it by muscle memory. The Neon shows up. I'm like, hey, let's do this. I'm speaking in very short sentences. It was hard to, like, in my head, I knew what I wanted to say. But talking was like picking up grocery bags filled with cement and or hauling 2 bags of mulch under your arms, gathering words and assembling them into a sentence and screwing a period onto the end of it, and it has to make sense. That must be what it feels like to be really old. And have a hard time talking and expressing yourself.
Yeah.
So, Wesley, the owner, was very cool. His girlfriend also into cars and mechanics and Fickham. They love their Neons. They love like 90s Mopar. Like, oh, these guys are cool, and I'm such a hunk of crap today. So I take a few pictures, walk over to the bushes, throw up, take a few more pictures, back to the bushes, throw up. I'm like, okay, let me screw this thing. I got the steady cam out. I'm trying to screw the thing on. I can't screw it on. My fingernails hurt. And Justin says, let me do that. Justin starts putting together. At one point, Tim Strickler did the slow roll, running aside this car. Justin Lose filmed the coming and going shots. And I'm standing there like a friggin' loser. Like, these guys drove all the way here to see me, and I'm fucked up.
Man. Because
I had a party, and I've never ordered shrimp at a bar ever before.
First and last.
First and last. So remember, the Millvale Neon means never drink while I'm on the road, or never party, really.
Yeah.
I'll have my airport beer. We'll have the plate of hot brown and code yellow at the restaurant near the hotel.
We had beers in the hotel with David Patterson in Virginia one time, and when we did one of these like podcast type things, and that was fine. It was like 2 beers apiece, and we were good.
Yeah.
And they weren't heavy beers, but it's one of those things where, you know, when you're on the road, you're thinking about, what's the next thing I got to do? Yeah. And then at some point you want to break from all that. Yeah. But so you kind of have to remind yourself, because it's easy to get lost in where the line is between taking a break and sort of, you know, between break and excess. Yeah. It's a very thin line. Right. And it's very easy to cross it. So, I mean, it happens to everybody. Everybody has the one, like last year I had a 6er of hams, and I showed up I forget what we were shooting, and I didn't tell you how sick I was on that shoot.
When was this?
This was last October, and I had gone to a Halloween party, and I ended up leaving the party early because I had to shoot the next day. But I had shown up, you know, this party started at like 7, so, you know, 4 hours, you leave at like 11:30 to get home, to wake up at 10 because we were carpooling, and the next day, I was nauseous the entire time, and while we were doing the chase shots, I was struggling. Like, I was just gonna be like, "Dude, pull over," but I'm just kind of like it wasn't coming up or anything. I was just feeling like very like, oh boy, you know, oh boy, yeah. And it's, you know, it's one of those things where like I kind of just sort of muscled through it by rote. You know, it's just something that you do when you've done it so many times that you don't have to think about it. Yeah. But if I had been in that position, and I have been in that position where you are like, I don't know if I could have done it either. Like, if I had been like that messed up, if it had just been a hangover, it would have been one thing, but it was a hangover stacked on top of food poisoning, which is just bad times and insurmountable. And I think a lot of people would have understood in that moment.
Do you remember the car we were filming that day?
I wish I did, but I don't. And I'm trying to do the...
Do you remember where we were?
We were in Kutztown.
All right.
Yeah, and so...
we've done a lot in Kutztown. So.
Yeah, and the video wouldn't have come out for like another few weeks after that. So I'm trying to think.
Well, if you think of it, you'll think of it.
Yeah, I'll think of it.
It's very tempting to just read this stream as it goes by. Someone says Pedialyte, best hangover cure. See, this is how YouTube... this is how live stream things can go off the rails. When you spend too much time looking at the feed that goes by. Yeah. Anyway.
Well. Oh, sorry. What were you gonna
ask? Stipe versus
Ngannou.
It's like Stipe versus Ngannou.
Rock'em sock'em robots. That's gonna be
it was quick to happen. That was like a week.
They were like, well, I mean, because, you know,
I'm gonna get my coffee.
It's one of those things where you know, Ngannou didn't get lit up, so it's not like he has to take the same amount of time off that somebody else who was, you know, was in a war, you know, throwing bombs would have to. And so Ngannou, he's that guy where like Dana White needs like another Conor, and he needs a Conor yesterday.
Like, And he's already the odds-on favorite.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, now the thing is that like Stipe, he's one of those people who, you know, for whatever reason, he keeps pulling it out, but people keep downing him anyway in each subsequent fight of thinking that he's not going to be able to pull it off. So, like, I'm hesitant to say that
Stipe looks like a. Stipe looks like a Circuit City manager. Huh. He's like a white guy's white guy.
Yeah.
This guy can't fight. He looks like a guy who's worked at Circuit City for the past 18 years. It just looks like, I mean, you see him with his shirt off, it's like, okay. But if he's just like there in a sweatshirt, you're like, I have a LG TV on layaway.
Yeah.
And then he just comes in and just outworks everybody.
He's the guy that you go to Circuit City to ask to go check in the back to see if there are any more. And he'll go in the back, but he won't actually check. He'll like go back, stand there, maybe like go out and have a smoke, come back. Yeah, no, we didn't have anything. You know, because obviously he's done inventory. He knows what they have.
Yeah.
So he's just one of those guys who I imagine, even before he got big, like in the UFC, that I could imagine a lot of guys at a bar deciding like to try him, of just thinking, I could take that guy, you know, you know, they got the drunk muscles and they're thinking like, oh, let me do this, and you know, now that's like the heavyweight champion of the world, and now he's going to go into the octagon with one of the scariest
man alive.
That man is walking Armageddon. It's just like
he needs the robe from that one Simpsons episode where Homer becomes a boxer and his opponent, like Drederick Tatum or something like that, his robe just says Mr. Armageddon on the back.
Yeah, it's like I will make a orphan of its children. It's like, don't they have a mother? Yes, I would imagine she would die of grief. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for that fight just because. Now, the thing is that, like, it's not going to be the sort of dry sort of wrestling affair.
Right.
Like, going into it, you sort of know what you're getting as far as, like, you're expecting them to stand and bang, you know? And that's...
The thing is, you can't bang against Ngannou.
Yeah.
Like, one of those hits, I said it before, he starts punching you in Alabama, and here it comes. So, like, Rogan and all of them were saying that Stipe is going to have to... We're going to have to see what Ngannou is going to do deep into a third round, because he's never gone that far before in a UFC fight. Yeah. He's just ended stuff. Wait, he had one that went to decision, but I forget what it was.
I don't. Yeah, it's
so he did go the full 4 or 5 rounds, depending on what the rules are for that particular contest. But, it's you're going against someone with a lot of experience, a lot of miles, and a lot of brains. Not to say Ngannou doesn't have that, but you're going against what may be this miracle that the UFC needs. Like, if Ngannou beats Stipe by knockout and then defends his title once, he's in. He's set. Even if it goes to decision, and like all he has to do is just win against him.
Yeah.
But there is this thing with Ngannou that's similar to Conor. Like with Conor, you're just waiting for that big left hand. That's what you want. You're waiting for that payout. And the same deal with Ngannou.
And this is the weird thing about the fight, is that if Ngannou wins, he theoretically becomes a superstar. But if Stipe wins, like, nothing happens to his stock.
Right.
Like, he's more or less
Ngannou.
But also for Stipe, of like, does Stipe become any bigger of a star if he beats Ngannou? It's just, I don't know what it is about him that, like, no one takes. Is it, you know, the whole Cleveland thing of just like, we can't have people from Cleveland being superstars. But it's one of those things of, I don't know. Maybe it's just that, like, he's armored wallpaper of just like, look at me. Yeah. And for whatever reason, people just don't find him charismatic or whatever. But Ngannou's charisma isn't, promo or anything. It's just sort of like this stoicism, this tough guy,
this
aura.
mysterious past.
Yeah.
He's from Cameroon. Where is that?
Yeah.
He was homeless on the streets of Paris for a while.
I feel like all the biggest stars were homeless up to and until right before they became stars. Like Connor being on food stamps.
Yeah.
Right before.
Kimbo Slice.
Yeah.
Was he homeless?
Oh, I don't know, but he was, messing up dudes on the street. I remember watching Kimbo Slice videos on the internet, might have been before YouTube. Well, I don't think it was before, but that was always. I had my friend Duncan showing me, hey, dude, you check this out. It's Kimbo Slice. Or this guy named Kimbo Slice who's just fighting dudes, and I'm like, why are you? I'm just kind of. Wondering why I'm being shown this, but it's weirdly compelling just watching guys get rocked and starched.
Yeah. And I think I remember, like, in my blasted out state, like after we filmed the Neon, which we didn't finish, I got some pictures, I got some engine shots, I got no panning shots. I hung out, talked, tried to be as jovial as I could. I kept apologizing, like, I'm sorry about this. We're gonna finish filming the car at Chrysler Nationals this summer. They're going to that, and the car will be cleaned up. There were a few things the car needed fixing. The ABS isn't working. Only one speaker is working for the radio. Not that we ever need the radio for the shoot, but we did have this. I made this one Twitter video where I get in the car. Like, I was in so much pain in that. I'm like rallied for this one thing, to just put this burned CD that Justin Lose made of Bare Naked Ladies Stunt. You saw it? That video?
Oh wait, no, that the most 90s. Yeah, I did see that.
First of all, we did not plan that the CD player took 3 tries to get it to recognize a burned CD going into that. It's like, I don't know what this is.
What is technology?
You have a 90s car and you got your first CD player off your compact Presario. You make your burned CD that you borrowed a friend's CD and copied it, and on your Memorex, and in it goes. I'm like, oh, it's not working. Oh, it needs a few tries, and then it's been.
Yeah. Well, let's cue up Yitzbin. That'd be great.
So, and I was almost, if that video continued, I had to trim it down a little bit. You see the Neon pulling away. I made a left turn, another left turn, and I was ready to open the door and just throw up on the ground after that.
Yeah.
And luckily, well, these guys drove 2 hours. It would have been worse if they came all the way here or something like that.
Yeah.
But it was a purple Neon too. It's like how 90s can you get? And it did not. I don't think it had the Mitsubishi engine. I think it had the Chrysler 2.0 in that. So I didn't know that there were 2 versions of the engine that you could get in a first gen Neon. I thought it was only the Mitsubishi twin cam. But we opened the hood, we saw no engine cover at all, and it was just this metal valve cover that said 2.8 liter SOHC. So that was some version of a Chrysler 2 liter single overhead cam engine. It didn't have a distributor. It had 4 coil packs on the top, but it had a regular air box as opposed to the 2 liter double cam engine, which I think is Mitsubishi derived. We'll learn more about this. We're riding after this. Although there's a different car from Dodge from the 90s that I think is the next thing to write about.
Yeah.
Big scary thing.
Yep.
So, one guy says, why do they always look like they're in a dorm room? I don't really have taste as far as... this futon I didn't pay for, that chair came from Grandma's house.
Oh,
and one of the
very nice chair.
One of the legs is broken. That's why it's so low. I just took all the other legs off.
I never would have noticed.
Now it sits like 4 inches lower than it does.
Well, it's level with the futon. It's very nice.
Yeah.
Or the couch.
This futon came from my buddy Matt Walsh.
Very nice.
All right.
Oh, so this past week... Okay, so here's the thing. It's awards season for film. And ever since I was 12 years old, I've been total whore for award season film. type thing. I would always watch the Oscar nominated movies with my mom in ahead of the sort of Oscar nominations and the Oscars themselves. And this is before, there were Oscar blogs that could help you sort of predict what was going to be nominated and all this other stuff. And before really understanding what awards precursors sort of were.
Yeah.
Like all the critics groups, like we're at that point of the year where, all the critics are starting to announce, the Philadelphia Society of Film Critics are all in on Get Out.
Yeah.
And it's to the point where I'm starting to think like maybe it could win, which would be the earliest Best Picture winner since Silence of the Lambs in 1991, which was released in February of that year. And somehow like nothing else came out that could beat it.
Right.
Even though you had like Beauty and the Beast and JFK and all the rest of it. But anyway, now in earnest begins like going to see the movies that I think are in the running. And so last night I took my mom to see Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, which is from Martin McDonagh, who did In Bruges. You ever see In Bruges?
No.
It also did Seven Psychopaths. He was basically a former playwright who became a filmmaker. And so his films are very like dialogue. It's kind of almost Tarantino-esque in how it's dialogue driven in a way, but also very character driven as well. And it's basically about this woman played by Frances McDormand whose daughter is murdered, and she basically pays for 3 billboards outside her hometown to question why the police haven't found anything yet. And what's interesting is it has my favorite Woody Harrelson performance in a while because I love the character, because it's a fully 3-dimensional character, because he's the police chief who she's accusing of not making any arrests, but it's not black and white. Like, he wants to find the killer. Yeah. It's just, there's nothing the DNA doesn't match anybody in the system. There aren't any witnesses. It's like, there's only so much that he can realistically do, but because this movie is kind of about closure, it's all about sort of, she doesn't really care about the logistics of police investigation. And you don't really blame her for it either, because she's kind of still processing the grief, because it hasn't even been a year yet. Right. And I don't know, all the performances are wonderful. Sam Rockwell's in it.
Love Sam Rockwell. Since Moon.
Yeah, he's fantastic actor, and I think he's going to be up for Best Supporting Actor, and he might actually win too, provided that there isn't this surge for Willem Dafoe in the Florida Project, who, like, I've been amped about Willem Dafoe potentially finally getting an Oscar ever since he was nominated, I think like 16 years ago, for Shadow of the Vampire. I think that was his last nomination. Where he played the guy who was Nosferatu. Okay. Like, basically, it was a movie about movie making. But he's Sam Rockwell is this sort of racist, homophobic cop, and it's a wonderful character arc for him. Okay. Like, it's one of my favorite arcs for somebody in a film, and it's just such a vividly drawn character. And I don't know, I don't think it's a masterpiece by any means, but there's a lot in the movie that suggests, it could get a screenplay Oscar for its screenplay. And it's one of those interesting things that I'm kind of wondering along the lines of, your Blade Runner 2049s of the world.
I think that has a chance as far as visuals, maybe. Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of practical effects. All the water in the climax of that movie was real. It's a wave pool, but it's this gigantic wave pool that I saw, like, Adam Savage went to it and talked about it because he's a big Blade Runner fan.
I love practical effects so much.
Did you get a chance to see Blade Runner?
I have not, but
it's pretty much out of all theaters. You'd have to wait for it to.
It'll be out soon on the home media, because, I mean, not to sort of, put it down, but like, it really didn't do that well in theaters, and so I think they're going to kind of make the push to get it out sooner rather than later on home media, so they can kind of
don't do a live chat, you tool. If you're gonna ignore the chat, just do a podcast. I like your icon. Yeah.
I don't know. People can blame about anything, but I don't know. It was kind of a nice distraction from other things because I had been editing the Christmas video, like the music video for the Christmas song this year, which is funny because it's the second year in a row where I ended up recording the vocal while I was sick. So like, I think I sound like shit. Like my friend thinks I sound fine. Like my friend who's playing my girlfriend in the music video, like she thinks it sounds fine, but it's one of those things where, you know, I know what I'm supposed to sound like. Yeah. And even, you know, what I'm supposed to sound like, you know, it's fine, but it's, but then, you know, last year's Christmas song was Drifting in the Snow, but I didn't make a music video for it. Right. And that's like my favorite Christmas song that I've done, because it takes a year for this Christmas songs that I write to actually sound like Christmas songs to me. And so like Drifting in the Snow, sort of like, now that I listen back to it, I'm like, oh, that's really, you know, like it takes me back. The same way like Regular Christmas like takes me back in a very weird way. Yeah. And I don't know, like this song that's coming out soon, maybe tomorrow, because the video's pretty much done, is, I don't know, it's festive-ish, but I think it's going to take a year before it like really gets there to feeling like a proper Christmas song. Yeah. And it's to the point where, you know, I started doing Christmas songs as like a joke, and now it's become like this weird RCR tradition. So I don't know, I have fun doing it, and I hope people enjoy it, but they will. Yeah, even if they don't, it's fine. I'm going to keep doing them anyway. But yeah, it's anything else sort of going on, because Golden Globe nominations like came out and Blade Runner 2049 didn't get anything. But granted, they don't have tech categories like visual effects. Oh, okay. So it kind of makes sense, but there was like an off chance that there would be screenplay or something. The irony is that like Ridley Scott was up for Best Director, but you know, he didn't do Blade Runner 2049, I know, but like the idea that he was nominated but the sequel to one of his most famous movies wasn't. Right. I actually got 5 out of 5 on my best picture predictions for drama. Yeah. And because it was Three Billboards, The Shape of Water, The Post, and just other stuff, like stuff that's not out yet, because they do the whole like in select cities to qualify for the Oscars, but then, you know, nationwide it's going to be in January, like after nominations come out, so that everybody can go see what things are. Yeah, I gotcha. It's a very annoying process, but you know, it is what it is.
I'm going to be down in Jacksonville, Florida over Christmas, so I'm not going to be able to, I don't know if we're all going to go and see the Star Wars movie or not.
Oh, I'm seeing that on there. I got the tickets for the opening night fan event, and I'm taking my nephew.
Oh yeah,
because he's never been to like an opening night premiere showing, and that, and like, I think kids are kind of jerks, so I don't want him to get spoiled by somebody else who sees it first. So I'm just like, no, we're seeing this first. I am going to take you to see this thing, and it's going to be great because I am amped. I'm so hype. United States of hype.
I went to see the first of the prequels when it came out, and that I enjoyed going to it more than I enjoyed seeing the movie. Like, everybody was so excited that this thing was happening, and then we all walk out of the movie like we just saw our mother naked.
That's the perfect way of describing it. Now, granted, like, I was 13, so like I thought it was fine. Like, I didn't. For me, again, it was kind of like the experience of going was cooler than the movie itself. But I was fine with the movie. Attack of the Clones was where it kind of like changed. Where I was like, that was like the experience of going there was cool. But if you ever see this, there's this video online called "How Star Wars Was Saved in the Edit." and it's from Rocket Jump, which is Freddie Wong's channel, and it's a fantastic video that sort of explains how Star Wars, A New Hope was essentially, you know, this unwatchable mess of a movie until Marcia Lucas, George Lucas's wife at the time, essentially, and her team of editors came in and basically rescued that thing from the scrap heap simply by reshuffling scenes. Because our first introduction to Luke is this series of deleted scenes where he's on Tatooine watching the opening space battle through his weird binoculars. And he's like, come on, let's go, blah blah blah. And then they keep intercutting with the Imperials talking about, you know, the Death Star and everything, and him talking to his friends about how he wants to get off the planet and all this other stuff, just these really boring scenes. And so they just dump all that and just move everything forward and make our introduction to Luke be when the droids are being sold. But also the weird thing is that the climax, there's when they're going to destroy the Death Star, the rebels, in the final version of the film, they're trying to destroy the Death Star while the Death Star is moving in on the rebel base and preparing to fire on it. But in George Lucas's rough cut, they're not about to fire on the rebel base. So there's no urgency. The rebels are literally just going to go kill some people. And, you know, and Marcia Lucas was like, no, there needs to be an immediate threat. And so if you go back and watch the movie, you notice that every time they mention that the Death Star is getting closer, no one on screen is actually saying it. It's off-screen inserts of just Death Star approaching location, you know, or approaching rebel base, you know, off screen, and then the rebels being Death Star is getting closer, you know, and just them looking nervous and sort of hoping that, you know, that, and also Luke makes 2 passes on the Death Star trench because he misses the first time. And they're just screw that, we're just gonna have him use the Force and it's gonna be great. And it's just so many little things, and it's mind-boggling that it ever got to the point where it just shows how important editing is and how great a good editor is at shaping stories, you know? But and it's a fascinating video, and I think everyone should check it out. That's my recommendation for the day.
And you saw The Disaster Artist?
I did not. I want to.
But you went and saw The Room.
Yeah, I saw. Room. I did see
I saw none of those 2 things.
Well, I mean, it's weirder the more I think about it, in that I think, and I've heard a lot of good things about The Disaster Artist from people. And even though every time I see the trailer, I don't think James Franco's Tommy Wiseau seems that good, but that's kind of a moot point because who really can do Tommy Wiseau? As long as he kind of looks the part, I guess it's fine. But it's another one of those movies that are about filmmaking that I kind of like. I like movies that are about movies. So yeah, that's, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing that eventually. It's just a scheduling thing, I guess, because there wasn't a place playing it last night. It was, we were either going to see Three Billboards or Lady Bird, which is another pretty much lock for Best Picture nomination. But I think I don't know. I remember reading that people coming out of screenings of The Disaster Artist, preview screenings, their number one comment on their little comment cards was that they didn't believe it was a true story.
Really?
Which I think is hilarious, because that, in a way, you couldn't make up a guy like Tommy Wiseau. You know, he's if he were invented by a screenwriter, you'd get thrown out. Being too unbelievable. But yeah.
Well, there are some people on the edges of society like that who aren't in the same reality as us. I mean, occasionally you meet them at car shows who claim that their vehicle has a special performance package that was really rare that never happened. And, you know, it's all in the early 90s stuff where stuff really wasn't as documented as it was. Now, of course, you'll never see a guy like this at a dyno day. Put it on the dyno, see what it does. I mean, that was sort of what car culture was in the 90s and late 90s, when there wasn't really easy way to just, double check, does this thing really exist? You sort of had to take people's word for it, and back in 60s and the 70s, it was all mechanical. It's like, well, does it have this cam or this carburetor? Not that you couldn't see the camshaft and, the internals of a carburetor are hidden, but you can kind of guess, like, there wasn't that wide of parts, and we didn't really have this mysterious place called Japan where stuff was capable of things other than just throwing, larger CFM carburetors at the problem. And where am I going with this? People on the edges of society. Anyway, my point is that there's lots of liars out there.
Yeah.
Bet you didn't expect to see Mr. Regular's... Oh, yeah, thank you.
Oh, what? Do you have a bulge?
It's my pants. I'm not really that endowed. Or am I? Or maybe I should just stop sitting this way. If only it could get me a date!
I mean, dates are overrated.
Yeah.
Just because it's kind of, I don't know. I'm really not good at dating. I think there's in season 4 of BoJack, there is this amazing internal monologue that is pretty much the internal monologue of someone with anxiety or depression of like, you're such a piece of shit. Why are you why would you say that to somebody? And he's just saying like some innocuous thing of like, oh, blah, blah, blah. It's just amazing. And I think it's kind of, how I feel on dates of just like everything you're saying is wrong. Stop saying it.
Yeah.
How did you even get this date in the first place?
Yeah.
And blah, blah, blah. And I don't know. And it's funny because I think at the end of the day, as long as you sort of carry yourself a certain way, you should be fine. But it's the getting to the point where you can carry yourself that way.
Right.
Of believing, because then you get to the conversations of, all right, well, what do you do for a living? And then I'm thinking of the dialogue tree and where that goes of like, okay, what can I say that doesn't result in another question?
What can I say that doesn't sound like I'm bragging?
And that's hard.
That's hard in the business we're in.
Because if you say like,
automotive, like I say, I'm an automotive journalist. Oh, well, then that leads to a million questions.
Who do you write for?
Well, I kind of write for and then you answer the YouTube questions.
Yeah.
So how do you get and occasionally this comes up, how much money do you make? And the answer is, enough. Look, I'm not enough. Yeah. Enough that I can have a 1-bedroom apartment.
Yeah. Like I can live, my bills are paid. That's all that really matters.
Right.
Like and I'm paying for this dinner. Like just
yeah. Exactly.
We're fine.
Yeah. Like I was talking to Allison the other day, and it was about dating, and she said, Brian, when I've talked to you, you often respond monosyllabically, and it sounds like you don't care about being here or this conversation. And my answer is, or maybe I thought it. I think I just said, oh, because, it was just, on Facebook Messenger. Yeah. But I do that. I just say, yeah, that's cool. Oh, no way. Nice. Yeah, I'm listening. Yeah. But that's all I say, because if I said what I was really thinking, you'd be disgusted. Mm. But that's the game that every man plays.
Yeah, of figuring out sort of where the line is, especially now of I don't... Like, when I met Allison, like, part of the reason that we became such good friends is because she reminds me a lot of me at the same point. Mm. It's that same sort of, bubbly but, like, sarcastic, weird attitude. And... but like in a good way, but even then recognizing a certain, similarity or a kinship, I was still wondering like, what can I say that, or how far can I go in joking to where I'm not going to be interpreted as someone who's like trying to, turn this into a freaking Harvey Weinstein situation. Right. I don't want to come across as that guy that someone's going to go on Twitter with a story about.
Yeah.
You know, and because I understand how easily situations can turn that way, you know?
I had this really fat teacher in elementary school. And I remember thinking, how does she wipe herself? That ass. Yeah. That ass, her both ass cheeks have different exchange numbers, or like
they live in different area codes.
Yeah, like that. Like, how does she wipe herself? Like, how much? Because, all right, this is elementary school. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that long division sucks, but I can wipe myself now. You know, Dad, wipe my butt. You know, there's,
and God forbid that teacher had kids that went to that school, because then he'd be getting, yo, mama's so fat she takes a dump with the seat up. Like,
I never heard that one.
Well, I mean, I said it, but I made it up, and then I was convinced that no, I couldn't have made it up, because I'm sure I've heard that somewhere before.
Yeah,
but I don't even know. Like, that's one of those things of like crypto amnesia, of wondering, like, did I really make this up? And so now I gotta go to Google, make sure it's not somewhere.
Yeah.
Like that Garfield line about, you know, what was it? The money can't buy popularity, but can rent it.
Yeah.
Which wasn't even really.
That was Garfield. Like 1890 or something.
Yeah, it was something. It was farther back than that. It was like Garfield using it from something else.
My favorite "Yo Mama's So Fat" joke comes from Jeff Foxworthy, who said, "Your mama's so fat when she walks across the living room, the radio skips."
Jeff, I think that might be the first time I've laughed at a Jeff Foxworthy joke. Now, Grant, I actually know, because there were some decent, you know, you're a redneck wens.
Yeah.
You know, but he's a comic with bits. And the thing is that, like, I don't typically go for comics who have bits, like established bits where people are going to see them do the thing. Yeah. Of just, you know, and that's something that has always been sort of a bucket list thing of to try stand-up comedy. But I realize, like, stand-up comedy isn't really something you just try. Yeah. You know, because the likelihood of bombing is far higher. Yeah. Like, for open mics for music, like, I'm not really worried about it, because I bombed before and I'm over it. Yeah. But for stand-up comedy, there's nothing there but the silence if you're not getting it right. Yeah. It's just the sort of the idea of, you know, I hope you think I'm funny, but just know that if you don't think I'm funny, it's going to crush me.
Crazy Violent 69 doesn't think I'm going to see the comment. Some of these are just fun just to say in that Mr. Regular has a good face. I like to look at it.
Oh, yeah, for people...
Can anybody share moments when you were blown away by an unexpected view of a personality mismatch or a car and its owner or owners? When are you coming to Portugal? It's kind of like Spain, but good. Reviewed some Ford executives. Hi. Content time. Review my TR7. Content. Southward Car Museum for New Zealand trip. Please, I wear a brown shirt. You both English majors? You single-handedly got me into cars, cheer fellow weirdos. What is the worst color for a car? The answer is white or black. The worst color for a car is white or black. And they're both for the same reason. A white shows dirt, black shows dirt. Neither one of them. Black will always look kind of okay, even if the car gets a little bit rusty. But the second you scratch a black car, you've scratched the black paint, and beneath the black paint is the gray primer, which just pops out. Yeah. You could scratch a white car, and it's not going to look that bad. Because it's just gray primer underneath. The problem with white is that there's always different shades of white, and black is just black. I mean, some people mix black with purple or some sparkle or something and that. But and I'm talking gloss black. Flat black is a different thing. Flat black is the cheater's color because you've now locked it in. If you paint a car flat black, it's now the best it will ever look is 6.5 out of 10. It will always look that way. But you're like, it's the automotive equivalent or automotive paint equivalent of going ugly early. It's like, we're doing that. Flat white, it looks like the car was stolen or something. Because flat white looks like a cheap apartment's kitchen. Like, because that's the color of everything. But the second you take a white car out, like the MR2 is Toyota Super White, the second you take that out, all the dust is suddenly visible everywhere. Black car, not so much. But black cars in the winter, you might as well just not wash them. The salt immediately is everywhere. It was like that with Sally. It was like that with my Dodge Neon that someone found a picture of somewhere. I posted it to Twitter. The unseen pictures of my 2000 Dodge Neon. The first release of the second generation Dodge Neon. And there we go. Remember when this was called Sit Indian Style?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Everybody go to the gym. We have an assembly today. Man, that was in the 90s when school had money and you had all these pointless assemblies. Stupid stuff. And some of them were fundraisers. I remember that in elementary school. We got to sell this candy. It's not a fundraiser. It's a fundraiser. And you're like, okay, to you it's like different homework. And I'm like, I have to sell this thing? I'm 7.
Yeah.
The frick is this? And then you win prizes. I'll bet you'd like to have what could you win? Like this
pencil topper.
I guess Super Balls, like organizers, some.
It's all stuff that's going to get confiscated if you bring it to school
anyway. Yeah,
it's just, here, buy a bunch of these magazines. Like, I know you don't really. I haven't discovered a love of reading yet because I'm 6. And also, Dad has plenty of stuff to read on the can. But buy these magazines anyway. Yeah. Here, you'll get like 12 months at a discount for, sports.
Number one USA Sports Network. The magazine.
Like magazines that you only ever hear about in magazine fundraisers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of...
So you had to sit on the hardwood floor of the gym, or in my case, my elementary school had a carpeted gym, which was great for sitting on, bad for everything else. Basketballs didn't bounce properly on it. If you fell down, you'd rip a hole in your sweatpants that you're wearing to school that day because it's gym day.
Yeah.
Of course, I also remember in elementary school, you'd have to know ahead of time if you got the playground today, because we had a playground, but it wasn't big enough for all 3 classes, all 3 elementary school classes. I think like 4th and 5th graders got released together. 3rd and 2nd graders got released together. 1st graders, I think, by themselves. I can't remember. Anyway, even in odd days, your class would get the playground. The rest of them had to go out in the field and just run around in the field. So if you had the playground, you'd have to remember to wear fast pants. Yeah. You couldn't wear jeans, because if you wore jeans, they would grip the slide. Sweatpants would slide on the slide. You'd go faster. You couldn't play Squeeze the Lemon. You'd get in trouble if you play Squeeze the Lemon on the tube. Yeah, on the tube slide. That's where one person would go down the tube slide and stay at the end of the tube slide. Yeah. Then another person would slide down the slide, try to knock them on the ground. I think you also could call it Smear the Queer, but, I don't use that word anymore. I think that's a different game.
Yeah, I think that's just beating someone up. Like, I think that's literally what it is. Let's get him! Which is terrible now of, like, man, they did some messed up stuff when we were
yeah,
kids.
That was the 90s. Do you remember Flinch? Flinch was where you got a tennis ball and like people stood up against the side of the school and you threw the tennis ball as fast and hard as you could near someone's head, and if you flinched, you were out.
Huh. So sort of like Charlie McDennis, where he has the hand on the wall.
What's Charlie McDennis?
It's from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh.
It's this game that they created for when they're drunk. It's like a board game, and basically, you know, there's this part where like you have to have your hand against the dart board, and you know you can't flinch. And basically, like the dart goes right through Dennis's hand, and he doesn't flinch at all, like just no reaction. But yeah, Charlie McDennis, the game of games.
Someone named Obi-Wan Kenobi says needs a higher ground. Other people are quoting lines we said from the videos. One guy says, you guys should have fan submissions and show them.
Fan submissions?
Like submitting what?
We did a fan episode this time last year.
Yeah, it didn't go over.
Jokes.
It didn't go over. I mean,
it was just too long. That's what I think.
Yeah.
But like, it's not. I don't know. We tried it. It's fine.
I kind of want to do what Matt Happel does. He does a fan mail stream, but he got a P.O. box, and people just mail him stuff, and he talks about it. But I worry that if I did that, I'd be just doing it for the stuff, which would make me feel bad in two ways. One, I don't deserve stuff. And two, what if I get stuff and I don't like it? And then on camera, I have to pretend to like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if you just have like a visceral reaction on camera and you can't hide it, of like, hey, you know, you mentioned you
this
did
thing.
You did a joke about Bad Dragon once. Let me send him
a
like
big dildo,
yeah. Or like that the Ninja 250 that came out. Like,
first of all,
sticker on it.
Would that be violating YouTube policy?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure someone does Fleshlight reviews on YouTube.
Yeah.
Because I could have sworn I saw this YouTube video of like going behind the scenes of how Angela White's Fleshlight got made, which I'm just thinking,
wow,
that's don't know if it's still up there, but yeah, interesting stuff. But it's and also, you know, you don't know if someone's going to send you something crazy,
right?
I've seen enough episodes of Unsolved Mysteries about bombs getting mailed, but which again, you know,
yeah, knock on metal. That's wood.
Yeah, there we go. It's good. But hey, you know, you've gotten some pretty cool stuff in the past, like the New Zealand goodies.
The thing about that is that it's so different. Like Juliet Johnson, who we're gonna hang out with down there, they don't get Kool-Aid, and so I just sent her the 3 packets, and she opened the packet and she's just like, it's just this much, and this is supposed to make 4 liters of stuff, because it was all measured out in quarts, and they were like having to do the conversion. Yeah. Like, how many quarts does this stuff like really this makes that much? And I said in the thing, like, there's no sugar in Kool-Aid in the packets. I think you can buy it with sugar in it in like the bigger things, but traditional Kool-Aid is just that little packet, and you just add sugar to taste. And then she just eats a chunk like this big. Like the chunk of a razor, just raw Kool-Aid. And you see her face contort. And she goes into her hands. Her whole tongue is bright red. Yeah. Did anybody in... because they did it at Kutztown. Did anybody at Penn State, Maine ever put Kool-Aid in a fountain?
No. I've never seen that before.
Did they ever do Mr. Bubble in a fountain?
Now that I've seen, not at Penn State, but in high school. Yeah. So in some places where they would just like throw some kind of soap that would just kind of... Yeah. It's kind of a... I think there's this impulse to sort of put things in water just for lulz.
I rode a bicycle into a fountain in college. I had this mountain bike that I got good at doing bunny hops on it. I couldn't do tricks, but I can get both wheels off the ground. So I was riding it around, and someone says, I dare you to ride that into the fountain. And now it's on. Yeah. Because it was a fountain that just higher up than what the ground was. It was similar to the Fountain Lady fountain at the Wyomissing Mall. Remember the fountain
Berkshire
at the
Mall.
late?
Yeah.
Oh, did I say?
Oh wait. Yeah.
Berkshire Mall.
Yeah. There's one at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, where the fountain lady walked in, like back in 2007.
Yeah. And that, I just love that. Of the many things representing my area, that just made the cut of just some woman. And didn't she take like action against the mall?
Yeah.
For not. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of stupid people in this.
And then they found out that she had like a warrant out for arrest for like shoplifting or something like that.
Like, I love my hometown and everything, and there's a lot of great people here, but there's like also a lot of really stupid people here too. Which is, I mean, but that's like true of anywhere. You know, there's going to be a lot of wonderful, great people, and there's going to be a lot of people who, you know, they need common sense legislated because they can't do it themselves.
Right.
You know?
That's a good line. Yeah. People who need common sense legislated. Well, the thing about this video, since it's streaming straight up, we don't really have a time limit.
Yeah.
I think we've gone for like an hour and a half here.
I wouldn't be surprised if it just feels longer, because I think we're at an hour now, because I think we started at like 1:30 and it's 2:30 now.
Does Open Broadcaster tell you how long you've gone so far? We've been live for an hour and 4 minutes.
Nice.
Oh. So, yeah, find some questions. I'm going to read the chat.
I got some questions here.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So, well, first off, if you want to ask questions, go to our subreddit, r/regular car reviews. There will be an Ask RCR thread. If you don't see it at the top, just search for it. It'll be there. What are your thoughts on the R34 GTR, and do you consider it worthy of the hype that it gets from young car enthusiasts?
I think I've never driven one. I've never driven a Skyline. I've driven I've driven cars with 1J and 2J engines in them. I think they're very nice engines. And I think they're great if you like all your power in the high, mid to top. The LS does it more for me because I like the grunt at the low end. I think the LS, or I think the 1J and 2J is a very beautiful engine. It's very nice to look at. It presents itself well within the engine bay. Do they deserve their hype? Well, I mean, you can get a lot of power out of that engine. I think, you know, if I say the LS deserves the hype, because I think it does, then a 1J and 2J equally deserves the hype. The only difference is it takes more money to get power out of a 1J or 2J than it does for an LS. But that's just for the virtue of us being here in the United States, where LSs are like Cheerios and 1J and 2Js are like Hidden Treasures cereal. If I go back to like 2001 or 1998, whenever that cereal came out. Was there any other parts to that question?
Nah.
Not really?
Just if it was worthy of the hype that it gets.
Yeah, sure. Car. I mean, it's going to get more hype because it's a bit of forbidden fruit, and they haven't existed for forever. I'll have a better opinion when I drive one, when I get my hands on one. I drove something recently that has a highly tuned 2J with a big turbo on it, and it was nigh on uncontrollable for me. To even in a straight line. Now, when you see this car, you're gonna go, "Oh, that car." You're like, "Okay, yeah, it had a 2J. Yeah, it was tuned, but look what it was trying to pull. Look what car it was in." Yeah. Oh, I've been corrected. We were talking about Skylines, and I made the mistake. Thank you for correcting me in the chat, because I talked about Skylines and I immediately said the Toyota engine. I'm sorry. I'm wrong. You're right.
It happens.
We're talking about we're talking about the Nissan series.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. But I maintain my position.
Yeah.
It's also it's the same approach, right?
This one, what is your attitude towards General Motors? Because I've noticed there seem to be a lot of unfounded hate towards it on the internet. And could you ever see yourself owning a GM vehicle?
Yes. I could see myself owning a Chevrolet SS. That's a very expensive car right now. What was the first part of the question? The attitude. What is your attitude towards General Motors? Fine. I make fun of them because they're on the top of the heap.
Yeah.
They're the biggest conglomerate. I don't know if Toyota worldwide is larger, but at least in the United States, it's Big Daddy General Motors.
Yeah.
General Motors can do a lot of dumb stuff and have plenty of money left over for covering up in a way Ford doesn't. But yeah, GM, we hate a lot on them because 80s and 90s General Motors interiors were just junk. And because you look back at what they did in the 60s and even in the 70s, the interiors were really nice. And just by the time 80s rolled around, it's just like, we don't feel like being innovative anymore. We're still making the 350, even though Ford was doing the same thing with the Windsor block. But then name me a good, Porsche, a good 80s interior. Right, Toyotas and Nissans and Mitsubishis were very nice interiors in the 80s. So, I make fun of General Motors because there's a lot to make fun of in a way that Ford sometimes has to try harder, but I try to be as even-handed as I can.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, GM cars that I really, really liked. I mean, I really liked the Grand National, though. Now that I see it's a kind of complex. I mean, the Buick 3.8 V6 was good, but there are better ways for power. Like after a lot of roads lead back to Matt Happel, but seeing how cheaply LSs can be put into everything and how much power they make for almost no money, wow, that's really, really, really is the way to go.
And then,
would I buy a Cadillac XLR? No. Why?
Just to have it?
We got a question here that sounds good. Mr. Regular, seeing you review different motorcycles, but no lightweight inline triples. Well, I did a Triumph. I think you'd like the motor. Discuss, please. I think I'd like to get my hands on a speed triple or something like that. I have nothing against British bikes. I've never ridden a Bonneville. I'd like to do that. Are you guys planning another trip to Europe? Not at this moment. It's not out of the question, but not at this moment.
Yeah, I just think after New Zealand, I'm not going to want to think about going anywhere for a while.
Yeah.
Just because that's going to be such a long trip and so far.
So far.
Far away.
It'll be nice on the way. We didn't lock down all the cars. I only have one confirmed car.
Wow.
That we're doing, and we're a month away. I really need to call Caswell and Andrew Lamb.
Light the beacons for Gondor.
Yeah. To find a place to film, although they say down there it's very, very lax. No one cares. Just film wherever you want. You don't have to hide things. I need to get a haircut. Lately I've been very self-conscious about my hair loss, which you can see. I've been talking about that a lot. There's where it is. There's where it's thinning. And you can't stop the march of time. 36. It's like something that's out of your control. Like I go to the gym more. I beat food poisoning pretty much by the end of that day. I was better. Like after I took a nap after that film shoot, I was done. But like losing your hair is a thing that's out of control. Like you don't have a choice in this. This is genetics.
Well, you can always go to Bosley and get the hair.
What's Bosley?
They're like the hair implant people.
Oh.
And then it's your hair. You can wash it. You can cut it. It's real hair. And I don't know how. But, all sorts of wizardry. Now they sell Rogaine over the counter. And like my hair is thinning really badly. But I mean, I wear, and you'd say like wearing hats, like you heard, doesn't really have anything to do with it.
Oh, yeah.
But it just sort of
like people say, like, because... Yeah, it's what is like male hair loss is a form of alopecia where the follicles just die, and then they always die in the same place. I'm thankful I don't have a bald spot. I'm thankful for that it's thinning in the front, And yeah, if I buzz this down to really short, you can't tell.
Yeah.
And that's probably what I'm going to... Wow, look at that. Look at that line that just goes right there. You know, my mom says, oh, don't buzz it. You have lots of hair. It's beautiful. And I'm like, yeah, but all I see is this.
And also, you're my mom. Like,
yeah.
I'm always going to be handsome in your eyes. But
right.
I'm actually out here on these mean streets trying to meet somebody.
Right.
You know. You don't know what it's like out here in the game.
Yeah.
You ain't been in the game since...
And by the way, Mom, you dye your hair. So what's... Yeah.
I mean, what mom doesn't?
Right.
It's fact of life.
I would much rather have gray hair than not have it. Full head of gray hair would be awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, and last question is, they say never meet your heroes. Was there ever a car that you loved that when you reviewed it, you realized you really dislike it? And vice versa, is there a car you thought you would hate that you ended up loving?
I thought I would hate the Honda Accord wagon, and I end up loving that thing.
Yeah.
The 5-speed Honda Accord wagon from 92. Yeah, man. That thing was awesome. That was great. I thought about buying one, like replacing, because at the time we were thinking about replacing Silicone Sally. I'm like, this thing is really nice. But, you know, I wanted to see what the Subaru thing was going to be about. And that was one thing, like when I was out in Pittsburgh, you know, recovering, it's like, man, they got snow back here on the east side. And I had the Subaru, I can't use it yet. I got 4 all seasons on the Subaru, a full spare on that thing. I'm ready to rock in this winter. Just bring it on.
Yeah.
Are you planning to make different content like the radio video? What radio video? Are you talking about the Weather Channel one? Because I'll do another one of those. I thought he hated the AE6, but he ended up loving it. Well, I was doing a bit there. Yeah. I mean, I was so excited to drive a real AE86, but I think the hype surrounding that car is way too much than it deserves. 4AG engines are nice for what they were in the period, but they don't make power. They don't make, like, get your head that these things make power. Yeah, the Gen 4 swaps, the JDM Gen 4 swaps do make power. But that's far and away what the original 4GE engines. I think those blocks crack at 250 horsepower or something like that. And at one of the car meets, I think I've mentioned this a number of times before, we did review, or I got a chance to, we didn't review it. It was a USDM GTS Corolla that was turned into True Renault. It had individual throttle bodies. It had just open velocity stacks. That thing revved like crazy, but when it was revving, it wasn't making any power. You had to get that thing over $5,000 for it to actually start to move. I'm like, this is a whole lot of fun, but it's a gutless engine. It was very nice. It makes a wonderful sound, but get fast engine out of it. It was a early high revving engine. I have no hate for it, but understand what the 4AGE is. It's your typical high revving thing, and Honda can do the same amount of power with one camshaft instead of 2. So
yeah.
Yep. I guess was there any other questions?
Nah,
not really.
I think that's a podcast. For our first live stream. I mean,
yep.
You know, I guess we're gonna go clean this up for posting on Shout Engine, Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play, Podcast Addict.
Yep.
Just search regular car reviews rather than RCR podcast, because for whatever reason it doesn't show up in the search engine if you just type RCR podcast.
Yeah.
So it's got to be the full thing. But you know, help us trend, just subscribe, download. It'll be nice. And maybe we'll get those sweet sponsorship dollars. Read ad copy in the middle of the thing.
Yeah.
Sherry's berries.
We do it like Rogan and just get it out of the way in the beginning.
Yeah, in the beginning.
Yeah.
I'm just like, do you want Blue Apron?
Yeah.
Well, come get Blue Apron. Use promo code BROWN.
I'd be open to, like, if anyone legitimately wants to sponsor us, even if it's just somebody who has like an Eats store, let me know. It will do it for like super cheap. Screw it, just to say we have some sponsors.
Yeah, we got.
I'll read ad copy.
Yeah, nothing wrong. And we got coming. You'll get that voice reading ad copy. It's like, oh wow, why am I looking there?
Yeah, I do it like way down there. Yeah, that thing's nice. It has a light on it that tells you just like, because you can't quite see the lens. Just look at the light and you're good. Little orange light on the side.
It's very nice.
And if any artists are out there, like you have commission slots open, yeah, hell yeah, I'll read that.
Yeah, for
a small fee. You know. Anyway, I'll say goodbye to the chat. Thank you, everybody. Everybody's saying, don't give up Wendy. The auction's happening. It has to go to someone better than me. I think the thing that people get upset about that I'm selling my MR2, they're not really upset at me. They're denying in themselves the possibility that they would do the same. I could have worded that better. They doth protest too much, or like they're warding off the evil spirits that this thing could happen to them. I would never do this. You don't know that.
Yeah.
You may find yourself someday getting that dream car you always wanted, liking it, and realizing that you shouldn't keep it.
Yeah, Brian 3 years ago wouldn't have done this.
No.
Like, because that was the talk of like, that was the dream. Like, let's get me, this MR2 AW11 if I ever get to that point.
Yeah.
And now it's like,
it's nice. I loved every single moment of it. I want to keep the memories as happy memories. There's nothing to repair. Little things like I'm looking at that engine and all those vacuum tubes. I'm like, nope. Everything's working. Great. Good. You know what? I've had a wonderful time. Let's part ways. Let's go out like Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Yeah. But...
Well, hopefully better than Seinfeld.
Well, yeah. He still went out on top, though.
Yeah,
the show went out on top.
I'm just like, yeah.
We're good. There's nowhere left to go. And for me, even though that was like under 2 years with that car, there's nowhere left to go but to destroy this thing. And like, well, yeah, then, and people are like, well, yeah, then drive it. Don't care about wrecking it. Can't do it. I can't do it. I can't harm of it. And by the way, how about you buy it and you drive it? Well, I can't. That's the big thing. Yeah. When people are like, don't sell the car. I say, are you going to buy it? Well, I'd like, I'm like, okay, then exactly.
Yeah.
MR2 to RX-7. No. What's replacing the MR2 is a motorcycle, and I already have it. It's a Suzuki DR 650S. I think it's just DR650. I may get a second motorcycle, like have a rotating thing, because, and we talked about this before, insuring a motorcycle in Pennsylvania when you're over 30 is $75 a year to insure a bike. It's peanuts.
Yeah.
You don't even feel that money. One guy in the chat says everybody has free advice.
That doesn't cost anything.
Do I like Rush? Yeah, I like Rush. Why no rotary motorcycle? I want something. I'm not a mechanic. I'm going to buy something that I really don't have to maintain at all. Are you going to North Carolina anytime soon? Canada. Canada is a possibility.
Canada is nice.
Yeah. Anyway. That's it.
Yeah,
thank you for watching. Let's
cut
this.
Have a good week.
Have a good week.
Yeah.